Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. Of course, I'm your host, as always, Charles Hamaker, here with you in studio. Hope you've been enjoying the nice June weather. I know we're not technically into the summer yet, as that begins in, 9 days from now on the 21st. We've got the spring, and you can tell it's still spring, considering the Friday, and I believe it was Saturday that we had where we got some of that rain throughout the weekend there. But it's nice lately. Looking for nicer tides for some of our teams when it comes to their recent records. But I digress. We'll still be here for whatever they're going through or working on over the course of these summer months. So with that being said and moving forward here, we're going to start with our Mariners here, who were down in the Sunshine State over their past road trip after heading down to Texas to play the Rangers. Headed down to the middle of that road trip with a 2-game set against the San Diego Padres in the Vetter Cup. Started off nice, a nice 4-1 win. Our player of the game, right fielder Teoscar Hernandez. Teo, 2 hits, 1 run, and 2 RBIs. As Seattle, nice to hold. The Padres is just 1 run there. I know they just got Manny Machado back really recently. And I, despite not really performing up to expectations, that's still a very talented roster they've got down at Petco Park. And it showed in the game on the 7th to split that series there with the Padres, a 3-10 loss. Our player of the game, left fielder Jared Kelenic, 2 hits on the day. Every other run, all those 3 runs that came across were all on 1-hit RBIs. So a tough one here. Again, it is a good ball club with the Padres. I've got a lot of good talent there. Not great to give up 10 runs in any sort of situation there, so that's not great. But, in terms of the split itself, that's fine. We go over here to our Angels. The Mariners still looking for a series win over the Angels, having played them earlier in the first homestand of the year and losing that one pretty early on. Began with a loss, 4-5 loss on June 9th as Seattle not able to get too much off of Shohei Ohtani on the mound outside of our player of the game, left fielder Jared Kelenic. Kelenic, 1 hit, 1 run, 2 RBIs, and a walk. That 1 hit was a 2-run homer off of Ohtani in the 3rd inning. Outside of that, Shohei did not give up anything. It was otherwise pretty solid on the mound. He was also solid at the plate, had a homer, had a double off of Mariners ace Luis Castillo, who continues to sort of tread water and not necessarily have the best outings since his really hot start to the year. So, yeah, not the greatest. The Mariners were able to inch closer in the 9th inning. Mike Ford hit a homer to make it 4-5, but Seattle was not able to find that tying run there. We go over to June 10th. The Mariners are able to even the series after that opening loss and show a little bit of what we were expecting with this Mariners team. Brian Wu makes his 2nd start of his young career, has a much better outing than he did against the Rangers earlier on. Still gives up 2 runs, which is fine. It's only his 2nd start in the majors after being called up from Double-A, of all places. So not the easiest route that Brian has had to the majors to this point. But some really solid performances at the plate from our 2 players of the game. First, center fielder Julio Rodriguez, 3 hits, 1 run, and 2 RBIs on the day, including a 2-run homer. And then shortstop JP Crawford, 4 hits on the day, 1 run, and 1 RBI. JP continues a strong start to the year offensively. Has had a few errors here and there, but otherwise has been pretty solid on the defensive end as well. Seattle, as you can see on the screen, not able to complete the series winner. Still searching for one. I believe they've lost their last. You split the Padres series, but you haven't won a series here in a bit since May, obviously. So the June 11th game, 4-9 loss. Our player of the game, right fielder Teoscar Hernandez, 3 hits, 1 run, and 2 RBIs on the day. Just looking at this team, it's nothing new per se that we're looking with the Mariners here. I say this nearly week by week, and we talked about this in the offseason. We talked about it last year. The bats just aren't getting it done. And Jerry DePoto's talked about it. It's been talked about all over. one bat that you can add at the deadline is not going to solve all the problems. There's no magic acquisition that you can go and get that will solve all the problems, fill all the holes that the Mariners have offensively. That doesn't, Brian Reynolds will not go and fix that. I know he was someone that people were looking at for the Mariners in the offseason. A lot of their improvement this year, at least, is going to be internally. How that looks in the offseason, who knows, especially considering the fact that the Mariners talked about adding impact on offense and added guys like Cooper Hummel, who was in AAA, Tommy La Stella, who got DFA'd, and AJ Pollock, who's been the best acquisition of that group, and he's been mediocre at best. So filling boat holes with Band-Aids is still a strategy that the Mariners are implying, and it's not working. A lot of folks thought that bringing up Mike Ford would help the offense a lot, and he's had 2 homers, fine, but he hasn't really been great outside of that. So again, there's no secrets to the Mariners' struggles here. Their bats just continue to flop, and I think it's put a lot of pressure on the pitching staff. You've had this pitching staff be so great for the last several years. Including the start to this year. George Kirby looked like an all-star to begin the year. Luis Castillo looked really hot to begin the year. Logan Gilbert had some strong starts. Robbie Ray, unfortunate to begin the year with that injury in his first start. Bryce Miller had a really start to his career. Brian Wu, not so much. Again, he's working on it. But especially with the younger pitchers, you can't expect them to sustain that sort of success over the course of a long season, especially with how early it is in the season. We're in June, and these games will go until like the beginning of October at minimum, unless you go into the postseason, right? So there's plenty of time for this to be figured out, but plenty of time is not the best word, because you probably need to do that sooner rather than later. You are still in reach of the third wild card, but saying that is just a little disappointing and almost demeaning in a way. You shouldn't be focusing or settling for the third wild card spot in June, and settling is a generous word considering that you're not even in that spot right now. So, a lot of this improvement is going to have to be internal. Now, who leads that charge? Who gets up in the clubhouse and speaks to that? I don't know right now. I really don't know. I know that when Kyle Seager retired, he basically named JP Crawford as the team's next captain. But I mean, is JP in the clubhouse having these conversations? I know that the big turning point last year was when the Mariners had that big brawl with the Angels down in Anaheim, and they just left that series. There was no brawl this time. Phil Nevin got tossed, but that's just a given considering how bad of a manager he is and the decisions that he makes. But, it's going to have to be internal. Who's leading that charge, though? Who's stepping up to the plate? Who's leading by example? Mitch Haniger is gone. He's with the Giants. He used to be a guy that led by example. You don't have that anymore. Who is stepping up? Who's saying that? I know there's a lot of younger talent in this clubhouse, so maybe they're not stepping up, but maybe one of them does. Someone's got to step up. Someone's got to say something, because again, this very well can be solved internally, and regardless of if it can or not, it kind of has to be done internally, because you really don't have a ton of assets to ship out to add a ton of impact and numerous bats. It's not going to happen. You can probably add 1 or 2, but that would be the most that you could do. That would be the very most. So again, it's not a new conversation. We continue to have it, and it's frustrating that we continue to have it. I know that there have been calls for firing of the hitting coach, but I've also been told by some folks who really do know ball that it's not necessarily the hitting coach. So that's a little frustrating. I think it would make sense, just considering over the course of the time that we've had the respective hitting coaches in places, that the offense has struggled. 2021, when the Mariners almost made the playoffs, the offense still struggled. 2022, when the Mariners did make the playoffs, the offense still largely struggled, and you were heavily reliant on the long ball. And to an extent here, and this year, you're still reliant on the long ball. You've got some solid hitters. JP's had a solid start to the year. Julio is a lot better than he was to begin the year. In his last 30 games, Ty France has been solid. I mean, over the past week, Teoscar, has been strong. JK started off the year hot, has cooled down a little bit, but seems to be finding it again. Gino, you need more from Eugenio Suarez. You need more from Cal Raleigh. We could check in. You need more from Tom Murphy. You need, even your bench, Dylan Moore is back. He's been meh. Sam Haggerty got sent down to AAA. Taylor Trammell got sent down to AAA. Got Mike Ford up here. So it's like you're searching for answers internally, and at the end of the day, these players are going to have to step up. If you want to make a postseason run. Again, we're in June. We're not even halfway through June, but we can only pitter and patter and doggy paddle through the water so much before you drown. So I just have to be real about it. So we go to injury-related news. The Mariners get some relief in terms of their relief pitchers. On the 6th of June, right-handed pitcher Andres Munoz was reinstated from the 15-day injured list with a right deltoid strain. So was infielder/outfielder Dylan Moore from the 10-day IL with that oblique strain that he had suffered and really started to work back from here. Unfortunately, as a resulting move, but not as a resulting move, one of the other moves on the 6th was that right-handed pitcher Trevor Gott was placed on the 15-day injured list with a lower back muscle spasm, which was retroactive to June 5th. On the 9th, right-handed pitcher Penn Murphy was reinstated from the 15-day injured list with right elbow inflammation. He did leave the June 10th Mariners game with supposedly had re-aggravated that injury. He was supposed to get MRIs yesterday. Have not seen an updated report. When we get to the ballpark today, we will probably hear more about that. Other resulting team-related news on the 6th, I mentioned infielder/outfielder Sam Haggerty had been optioned down to, got nasally there, AAA Tacoma. On the 8th, the Mariners signed infielder Didi Gregorius to a minor league deal. He last played in the majors for the Philadelphia Phillies last year. The 33-year-old hasn't really been productive in the majors since 2020. Had some epic moments with the Yankees in the postseason. Most recently played in the Mexico League and really has been slashing well down there. The Mariners are kicking the tires, seeing what's going on with Gregorius. He could be a good low-risk, high-reward option. But I don't know. It should be interesting. I don't believe he's played with the Rainiers as of yet. So that is I don't know. It's an interesting move. It's a kick the tires on him. On the 9th, as a resulting move to Penn Murphy's reinstatement, the team optioned right-handed pitcher Matt Festa down to the AAA Tacoma Rainiers. So the Mariners sit at a 31-33 record. They've got a little 6-game homestand coming up here, so it's a good opportunity for them to get back home, kind of reset, get back to basics here, and hopefully get back to winning. It won't be easy, though, considering that the first team that you're going to play in this homestand has been pretty solid as of late in the Miami Marlins. Yes, I don't really say that often. Miami really has struggled for a while, but Miami's coming off of a strong series in their most recent endeavor. The Mariners sit at a 31-33 record. They're 4th in the American League East, still only above the lowly A's. So even the A's are on a 5-game winning streak. And the longest winning streak that the Mariners have had this season is 4 games. So tell you all you need to know. Not all you need to know, but they're 4th in the AL West. Looking ahead, their next series is a 3-game slate. All with 6:40 p.m. Pacific time first pitch times against the Miami Marlins, June 12th. 13th and 14th. All of those are value games, so you can get into the ballpark as cheap as $10. Excuse me. Then the next series in that 6-game homestand, is against the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox come to town for the first time since late into the 2020 season. June 16th versus the White Sox is a 7:10 p.m. game. June 17th versus the White Sox is a 1:10 p.m. start. That is when the Mariners will be celebrating their salute to the Negro Leagues game. The first 10,000 fans into the ballpark will be receiving a Steelheads jersey. So I know I'll be there for that. And then June 18th versus the White Sox, that Sunday is a 1:10 p.m. game as well. Every child in attendance will be getting a Cal Raleigh poster for that. We move over here to our Storm, who the Storm continue to lose games. We knew this going in. I had my casual optimism about a bunch of players who were maybe eager to prove the league wrong. And some of that's true, some not so much. But at least with the Storm, I know that they're in a different era. They're not looking to win right now, and they're showing positive growth game by game. After the historically bad blowout loss in game 1 to the Aces. The Storm have continued to show progressive improvement gradually throughout the course of the season, despite only winning 1 of those 7 games that they've played to begin the year. So that starts that win. I know I'm talking about it in past tense because it was this past week, June 6th versus the LA Sparks, a 66-63 win. Our player of the game, who else but Jewell Loyd, 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. In our photo of the game here by Liz Walter, with a free throw in the third quarter, Jewell hit her 4,000th career point, doing all of those in a Storm uniform. Unfortunately, between this game and the next one against Washington, Loyd had a foot injury kind of bother her, holding her out of the June 9th game against the Mystics. And surely if they had Jewell Loyd, I'm very certain that the Storm would have been able to win this game, a 66-73 loss regardless. Our player of the game center, Ezi Magbegor. Ezi, with Jewell out of the lineup, really stepped up and brought her own flair. 24 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 blocks on the day. In a big effort. It was her 4th consecutive game with 3 or more blocks, tying Lauren Jackson's such record and streak. I believe Lauren did that twice over the course of her career. But a tough one there. Earlier in the day, the Storm and Sue Bird had raised a replica of the banner, the jersey retired banner atop the Space Needle, just 2 days before the ceremony itself for Bird. Is also unveiling a mural down near Pike Place Market on First Avenue of Bird herself. The festivities continue throughout the weekend, but first, before the jersey itself would be put up into the rafters of Climate Pledge Arena, on June 11th, the Storm would lose 65-71. Another tight game. Jewell Loyd still has a strong game in this one, 16 points. But shooting-wise, 1 for 8 from 3, 6 for 20 from the field in general, not so great. Our player of the game center, Ezi Magbegor, once again. Ezi, 13 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 4 blocks. So she extends her streak of 3 or more blocks in a game to 5 games there. It just continues to really look like the second scorer for this Storm team. Our photo of the game here by Matthew Bermudez during the ceremony for Bird in her really bright green neon suit when she was up there talking and she spoke last. So Sue talked for an hour and a half. It was a long ceremony. The ceremony itself actually lasted longer than the game. The game was about 2.5 hours, while the ceremony was just a few minutes under 3 hours. So that was a long day. Yeah, I'll talk about it here. The Storm continue to show gradual improvement. Jordan Horston continues to gain confidence and look better with the ball, shooting, defensively, just more and more comfortable each game, which will be huge considering the upside and potential that she has defensively, athletically, and offensively, being able to hit a bunch of threes in that first Washington game, being active defensively through all of those 3. That's big. Ivana Dojkic continues to provide a great burst off the bench. Jaden Melbourne showing some solid stuff in the Washington games, not stellar necessarily. Some bumps there. Washington's got some quality guards on that roster. But up and down, some solid performances. Ezi continues to look great, and her development is huge. She's only 23. She will be a strong contributor with this team for years to come. So I'm positive of the way that the Storm are going, despite the fact that they're losing so many games. Because if this continues to happen, they'll get another top pick and they'll add another young talent to the roster for future dominance, hopefully. And, seeing the growth of these players right now is essentially what this season is for, right? I talked about this at the beginning of the year. I had my optimism. I was hoping that, a bunch of these players would, have that chip on their shoulder that they'd been largely ignored by the rest of the league, and that this was a big opportunity for them to really go and prove them wrong, and have these really great years. For some, that is kind of showing up. For others, they're still trying to get out of the gate. They're still trying to get situated and get moving forward here. So it really hasn't happened necessarily for some, but for others, the development is happening, which is what is important and what I want folks to focus on with the Storm team. If you're looking for them to win games, you're not going to have the best of times. So, yeah, we go over here. Excuse me, to some team related news. The Storm made a couple roster moves, both of them related. On June 8th, just ahead of the Mystics game, the first one, the team waved forward Kayla Charles. Charles signed with the Storm as a free agent back in February and averaged 1.5 points and 1.2 rebounds in 4 games this season, playing an average of 10.3 minutes per game. So really not much there for Charles there. She was originally selected by Connecticut as the 23rd overall pick in the 2020 draft out of Maryland. She's appeared in 51 games, making 11 starts, seeing action in 11 playoff games over the 2 seasons with Connecticut, averaging 4.7 points, 2.7 rebounds, 1 assist, 6.6 steals, and 0.4 blocks per game. Just not a lot of room for Kyla here. I really thought that she might have been one of the players that got waived. It was encouraging to see her after a game, the Dallas game, getting up shots with Aurelia Girantes, but Seattle decided to go a different direction as another player with a different team was waived, who their coach was very excited about. Not very excited about, but give a lot of credit to and thought would really pick up somewhere else, just not on their current roster. That player would be forward Joyner Holmes, who was actually selected by the Storm in 2020, but was cut before the season began. So the team signed forward Joyner Holmes to a contract throughout the rest of the season. Holmes gives Seattle some size at the forward spot, some spacing on the floor, but is otherwise a really sort of unproven talent to this point. I know Kurt Miller of the Sparks, who Holmes was last with, as you could see in that photo, really raved about Holmes, calling her a unicorn of sorts, and was excited about her potential. But obviously it seemed that with the way their current roster is made up, they didn't see that they had room for her at the time. And Seattle was quick to swoop in, and she was able to get action, not in that first game against the Mystics, but in the second one on Sunday there. So that was interesting to note. And it's technically Holmes' second stint with the Storm, but her first time playing minutes with Seattle. So we look ahead here. Our Storm sit at a 1-6 record. They're 6th in the Western Conference. Looking ahead, they go on the road for 3 games after having 6 of their first 7 at home at Climate Pledge Arena. Nice little start to the year. You're able to get at home. You're able to get situated a bit. But now a 3-game road trip, which really won't be very easy. Begins on the road with Phoenix, who Phoenix has really struggled to begin the year. So that's not where I have much concern necessarily, but who knows with this team currently. I mean, they've got talent as well. That game is on June 13th at Phoenix with a 7 p.m. tip-off on the CBS Sports Network. The second game is where my worry really stems. June 15th at the Las Vegas Aces. Las Vegas has done a lot of traveling to begin the year. They're going to get a home game here against the Storm on the 15th on 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's going to be on Amazon Prime Video, probably considering the fact that the last time that took place, Seattle got beat by 41. It's probably a good thing. Things probably won't go that great for Seattle. And then the last of those 3 over the course of the next week is June 17th at the Dallas Wings, a team that Seattle did push pretty hard when they were here in Seattle, but just not really able to finish that out there, unfortunately. That's going to be at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah, 11 a.m. So we got a morning game down in Dallas with the game being on CBS, the CBS Sports Network. Trying to sort of put out where these games are going to be for folks just so they know where to look at them, because I know it's not always easy. The second Mystics game of the year was on Ion, so that was interesting. I don't know how that works out. Ion's a very interesting network, but nonetheless, I digress. We go over here to our Sounders, who the result here is okay. It's not great. It's okay. The Sounders went on the road to play Charlotte FC for the first time ever on the road. The first time they met and the only time that they met was up here in Seattle last year when Raul Ruiz had a hell of a hit late in the game to win that one. Raul consequentially had 2 goals in this match. A really big and strong effort from Raul, who is still trying to really get back to things, get back to his game, and did so in a big fashion as he had 2 goals and 9.1 match rating on 4 shots and 92% passing. Unfortunately, the Sounders would blow a 3-1 lead in this game. Charlotte would be able to score in the 89th minute to equalize and to split the points here after Seattle had a really strong effort. I mean, to put up 3 goals is a nice and strong effort. To have Raul kind of get back to himself and the elite goal scorer that we know he is, and to waste such an opportunity is why I start the Sounders section kind of like not so enthused, you know. And it's funny because this match was very much the opposite of what the Sounders have been doing as of late. Seattle has generated a ton of chances, but just hasn't been able to finish them, while their defense has carried them. In this one, they score 3 goals. Raul has an incredible goal that somehow didn't put him up for eligibility for goal of the week, and adds another one. Christian Rodon has a solid goal in his return. So the three goals scored from 2 players who really hadn't been with the club for most of the last few months. And you waste that opportunity as Charlotte gets 3 there. They've got some talent there. They had a strong year last year. I don't think they're doing too hot this year. I don't believe they're currently in the playoff picture. We will look at the conference standings here. Yeah, just to split those points after having that. Yeah, they're just underneath the playoff picture. Oh, wow. They're in a tiebreaker with Montreal for being the last spot in the Eastern Conference. So, yeah, it's disappointing in that regard because you get Christian and Raul back. They have quality games. You get to score your chances for once, and you waste it and you draw. So, for his performance, though, Raul was named to the MLS Team of the Match Day, which makes sense. I mean, brace for Raul. It's just fitting. Going back to last week on the 5th, defender Nuhu was named to the MLS Team of the Match Day for his performance against Portland. While nobody scored, Nuhu did rack up an 8.2 match rating, 1 shot, 86% passing, 80% duels percentage, 3 clearances, and 8 recoveries on the day. Those 3 clearances were big. I know Portland had a couple opportunities late. We talked about it last week. And ultimately, Nuhu's defense and hustle there at the end of it was really big in keeping it level, keeping it scoreless there, and ensuring that Portland wasn't able to score. So, tough one. Again, to wrap it up with the Sounders section here, they don't have a match this upcoming week. They have an international break before they play LAFC down on the road. That'll be a tough one. The last time these two met was up here in Seattle in a heated draw, very physical, intense battle. It'll be very interesting to see where that goes from here. I know LAFC hasn't really had the best run of play as of late, so we'll be interesting to see how that matchup goes, but that's not till a week from now. So the Sounders sit at an 8-win, 6-loss, 4-draw record, sitting at 28 points overall, which is good for second in the Western Conference, 1 point behind St. Louis. No Kraken-related things here. The OL Reign, with continuing with our soccer theme, had a better result. They had a win in their match as they battled the KC Current for the first time since the 2022 NWSL semifinal match here at Lumen, where the Reign would lose that one 2-0. Our player of the match, defender, Sofia Huerta, a 9.1 match rating, 1 goal, 1 assist, 1 shot, a 70% passing percentage, and 4 chances created on the day. We'll go with her photo of the match here, taken by Liz Walter, as the Reign wearing their pride kits, which are basically still their purpose kits, but with the rainbow numbers on the back, celebrates Huerta's goal in the first half. on a penalty that was drawn. Megan Rapinoe had gone out in the first minute. Rose Lavelle is the second penalty kicker, and she wasn't in. Shoot. And then, and I think Jess would have been there as well, but she's out. So basically, all of the top penalty kick takers that the Reign had were all off. So it was up to Huerta who was going to take it. I believe it was originally going to be Jordan Heidema or Bethany Balser. But Huerta stepped in, wanted to take it. She took it, and she nailed it. Excuse me. Later on in the match, she had an excellent cross into the ball for Heidema, who used a great header, who's tied in for the league lead in headed goals at 3, to really push this ahead, give the Reign a 2-0 lead, and they would need it because late into that match, Kansas City, who has a knack for scoring late goals, was able to get one back, and the Reign were able to hold on regardless for the win. The other photo of the match here we have is of Lauren Barnes being honored before the match. You can see there on the right-hand side in this photo by Liz, new general manager Leslie Gallimore holding a framed jersey for Lou, celebrating 200 career NWSL regular season matches played, becoming the first player in league history to do so, all of them with the Reign. Of the 214 matches that the Reign have played, Barnes has only missed 14 of them in her career and has been a consummate professional throughout the course of her career. All of her teammates rave about her. All of the coaching staff raves about her. I would join the same thing there. So congratulations to Lou on that. I know we're working on a piece for that, so stay tuned for that on our socials. Just looking at where we've got with this win, it was a good win. I mean, giving up the late goal, not great. I know I mentioned that the Current have a knack for that. You still wouldn't like for that to happen. I know the Reign pride themselves on the defensive effort. They've got an incredibly talented back four. So having that goal given up is tough. Going into this match against Kansas City, you kind of should have expected to win this one, considering how banged up the Current have been. Their injured list could arguably make a starting 11. But they got some strong performances. The Reign mostly had this match in hand, but there were opportunities for Kansas City where it felt like they were kind of sneaking and they were making some dangerous runs where the Reign would have to snuff that out and be on top of that. They would get that one late, of course, but again, mostly a solid job. Even in net for Kansas City, Cassie Miller, who had actually spent some time with the Reign back in her earlier in her career, made some quality saves, almost saved Huerta's penalty, and kept her team in the game. It was just excellent ball by Huerta on the second goal, great header by Jordan Heidema, and the Reign move on. They get those points, and they continue to try and keep pace atop the NWSL table, which is extremely competitive at this point in the season as we're the halfway mark. So speaking of competitive mark, halfway point of the season, talking about reinforcements. In terms of injury-related news, the team activated midfielder Angelina. The club removed the season-ending injury list designation from the Brazilian midfielder after recovering from a ruptured anterior cruciate ligament and lateral meniscus. Angelina has been elevated to the active roster and has rejoined the team for full training activities. She has been with the team in training for the last few weeks, but now it's official that she's off the season-ending injury list. The injury report against Kansas City was just kind of who we've seen as of late. Midfielder Jess Fishlock continues to be out with a leg injury, Rose Lavelle out with a leg injury, and defender Phoebe McClernand out with a back injury. And I believe they're still working on that. Rose Lavelle is back to training with the club. Positive notes on that after there was a little bit of a setback. Fishlock, no real news on her. I know she wasn't available for this match, and hoping to get back from that. But so nice little battle there, but we're getting closer and closer to the World Cup. So it'll be interesting to see if we do get Lavelle at all. And even with Rapinoe, I should speak on that as well. Rapinoe left after the first minute of the match, had a calf injury appear to injure her. She appeared to limp a little bit during the match later on. but during the ceremony for Sue, didn't really appear to be limping, didn't really appear to seem too serious. So hoping it was a precautionary measure and just taking things slow with Rapinoe, pardon me. But that's what we've got on that. The next match for the Reign is they sit at a 6-win, 4-loss, 1-draw record, fourth in the league table at 19 points, and still first in the Western Division of the Challenge Cup with 7 points. It's June 17th at the Houston Dash, which is a 5:30 p.m. Pacific time start. Houston, since these two clubs last met back in early May, Houston's gone on to win their last 3 of 4, including a tight victory against the Portland Thorns. So it's not going to be an easy feat for the Reign here. They're going to get a nice little few days of rest/training in before they head down to Houston to battle the Sam Lady-led squad. Sam Lady, if you do not know, is the former assistant coach with the Reign before taking an assistant coaching job down with Houston. So we head over here to our Seattle Seawolves, who you could say it was a mixed week, but considering the larger picture overall and the possible outcomes of this week, it's not too bad. So over the course of the past week, which was yesterday, the Seawolves hosted the Eastern Conference leading New England Free Jacks on June 11th. That was a 26-34 loss. Our player of the match, Pete Malcolm. Malcolm, 2 tries scored and 10 points scored as a total. Both of those tries late as the Seawolves tried to rally back. Seattle in this one was just, there were too many mistakes for the Seawolves in this one against a New England team that's very good. I mean, they're atop the Eastern Conference, and second in all of MLR in terms of points after this week. So to lose to New England's not necessarily a bad thing or something to be frowned upon, something to be disappointed with, but it's more so the way that it happened. You know, a lot of mistakes in the first half. Seattle was in a hole early. 17-7 deficit at half. That grew as the second half began. Seattle was able to thunder back, but ultimately ran out of time. New England added a try late, and it just pushed them too far out of reach. So unfortunate, of course. But before this match even began, as you can see on the banner below me, Seattle had locked up the number 2 seed in the West. It would have taken a San Diego Legion collapse for the Seawolves to have a chance at the top seed in the West. That wasn't going to happen because at the halfway point of their match against the Toronto Arrows, who we know, as I talked about in weeks prior, are not very good. San Diego was losing. 17-7, pardon me, but would go on to score 43 unanswered points in the second half to decimate Toronto and lock up the top seed. So the Western Conference picture is figured out. San Diego is first. They get a week off. They will play the winner of Seattle versus Houston. So the Seawolves will host the Houston SaberCats here at Starfire Stadium in Tukwila. When we get the time and date for that, we'll make sure to push that out. So playoffs are figured out. The only thing now that really you're trying to look for is building momentum going into the next week, going into the playoffs. And it's not an easy match to do it. So not easy team to do it against. So the Seawolves sit at a 12-win and 3-loss record with 59 setting points, which is good for third in the league as a whole, second in the Western Conference behind San Diego, who the Seawolves will play this upcoming week on the road, June 18th at the Legion, a 4 p.m. Pacific time kick. That's a big battle, but both teams have essentially have actually locked up their spot in the playoffs. So it's not like they've got a lot to play for. So it'll be interesting to see how much either team really keeps their starters in or at all. You know, it would be very interesting to see the lineups for this game when that comes around. We'll go over here to wrap up with our Seattle Star of the Week. And given her performance and what it means at this time of the year, I mentioned it in that segment. that the World Cup is coming up, the Women's World Cup. I went with Sofia Huerta. Sofia, 1 goal, 1 assist performance, was very, very integrated into the Reign offensive attack. And I think it just makes sense. I think it just makes sense. It's a perfect time for her. She should be making that World Cup roster. There's Lou Barnes said it in the post-game presser. There's no outside back like Huerta. And it's true. I mean, with the sort of offensive attack that she brings, as well as the defensive presence that she still has, despite being in that sort of attacking role, there really isn't an outside back like Huerta, a fullback like Huerta. Strong performance, factoring into both goals. I know with the first goal, with the goal being a penalty, a lot of people don't really consider it, but I'm going to consider it, especially considering the fact that she stepped up on her own, made the decision to go out and take that penalty. So that's why I went with Sofia. She's been excellent since she joined the Reign, first being used as a forward with Farid Benstiti when he was here, before going back to outside back and really excelling at that position for the Reign, helping make up that incredible back four. So before I go here, nice to commemorate Sue Bird and what she has meant. This sort of confetti that you can see here with Bird's logo and signature dropped after the 10 went into the rafters. Now, this isn't the exact same. They didn't put the black jerseys into the rafters, but it only makes sense to break this out today. And even then, on top of that, on top of the jersey itself, I've got the giveaway shirt from last year. So just great to commemorate the greatest athlete in Seattle history. I mean, nobody can top the 4 league titles, the 5 gold medals, on top of the incredible bevy of other achievements that Bird has accomplished in this city and representing what we do here. So until I see you next week, we continue throughout the month of June. I almost said week of June. I promise I know what I'm talking about sometimes. Until we see you then, take care of yourselves. Enjoy the weather. Hoping to see some more success with our sports teams by the time that we get back to you. Take care of yourselves, be well, and do whatever you can to make today a great day.